the October 14th, 2024 work session of Douglas County Board of Commissioners to order. Welcome citizens of Douglas County, all of our directors and employees who are in attendance. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll for the record?
Yes, sir. Chairman Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones is absent this morning. Commissioner District 1 Henry Mitchell.
Present.
Commissioner District 2 Whitney Kenner-Jones.
Present.
Commissioner District 3 Martin Raxton.
Present.
And Vice Chair District 4 Mark Alcaraz.
Present. Commissioners, are there any changes that need to be made to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda stands as approved. Each commissioner, just a reminder, will have 3 minutes to make remarks and 2 minutes for rebuttal. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody sign up for a public comment?
Yes, sir, we did. We had 2 individuals. So before I call you up, I will just remind you, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Once your 3 minutes are up, we'll ask you to wrap up your comments. And if you could speak directly into the mic when you get to the podium and restate your name and your subject matter. The first individual is Christian Simmons.
Good morning. My name is Christian Simmons, and I am inquiring about the 5-year comprehensive plan. I'm a founder of a new nonprofit called Nugent-R that is centered in Douglas County. And in 2022, we proposed a beautification project that was implemented into the 5-year comprehensive plan. It was a beautification project of the Highway 166 roundabout near Boundary Waters. And right now, first, I'd like to thank you for allowing it to implement into the 5-year comprehensive plan. However, I'm inquiring about what is the position in the implementation of the plan, as well as where is the progress for the plan, so we can try to correlate our fundraising efforts to the beautification project.
Okay. We'll do Allison.
And that's about it.
I just need to speak into the mic. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a young man was asking for an update in regards to the beautification program.
Sure. So this is an item in our 5-year comprehensive plan. Sorry, am I okay on timing, Lisa? I know this is
Just
public
quick.
comment. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Okay. This is an item that was in our 5-year comprehensive plan update, and we have been working steadily to make progress on each of those items. I would have to double check and see the exact year that we had put in for this project to move forward in our comprehensive plan update. A little bit later today, I'm going to make a few presentations about our moratorium and certain findings that come out of that dovetails with where we are in our comprehensive plan update also. So that would be something that is already on today's agenda to speak to that. I'm aware of the project. I actually enjoyed working with the group that proposed those ideas. So if it's something that, as we have the conversation today about how we elevate certain priorities going forward, we could certainly include that in the mix at that time.
Okay. All right. So, thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, did you
Young-
have any
young
other
man.
questions? Any other comments?
No other comments for now.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Our next individual is Daphne Simmons.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. Again, my name is Daphne Simmons, and I represent Reach Back, a nonprofit organization dedicated on finding ways to help communities grow thriving entrepreneurial ecosystems. That includes our youth, who become our pipeline, and our small businesses, who become the catalyst for aspiring entrepreneurs. And our hope is for our local governments and our civic services and agencies who would support and increase economic mobility. Now, in Douglasville, our closest small business development center is 35 minutes west from here and 35 minutes for our entrepreneurs to go east from here. And that's a lot for our entrepreneurs. So here at Reach Back, we have initiated a think tank, and we've begun to start it ourselves. So what we are looking for, we would like to have a meeting with someone at the local government, our local county government, to see if you can sit down with us and talk with us about our findings and ideas that we have found out about our entrepreneurs.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll definitely, all of us, I'm sure, would be open to sitting down and speaking with you at any time. Just reach out to our office and we'll be glad to meet with you.
Okay, and that's part of the entrepreneur thing that we were talking about, is understanding how to reach out to you and understanding what to reach out to you with is a lot of the questions that many of our entrepreneurs have. So I have that question too, how to reach out to you to have this meeting.
Yeah, we'll gladly get you some cards. Either if you would like to come up, we can give you a card that you could come.
Okay.
And also, I would state if you call the Board of Commissioners office, we
Yeah.
can get you in touch with each commissioner's aides.
But Daphne, you should have my number. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, be prepared to approve the minutes from the commission meeting of October the 1st, 2024, the work session minutes of September 30th, 2024, the executive session minutes of September 30th, 2024, and also the constitutional and elected officials retreat minutes of October the 3rd, 2024. We will have, or Madam Clerk, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you in regards to proclamations.
Yes, sir. We will have two proclamations for tomorrow. The first one will be proclaiming November 2024 as Families in Crisis Month. The second one will be proclaiming the month of October 2024 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead and continue?
Please, Madam.
Next on the agenda, tomorrow we will also have a public hearing, and it will be for the approval of an on-premises beer, wine, liquor, alcohol license for Ramses Trujillo at Don Churro, Tequila, and Latin Flavors, LLC, located at 10153 Veterans Memorial Highway. And again, that will be a public hearing for tomorrow. Allison Duncan is here if you have any questions.
Right, thank you. And one thing just to add, thank you, Lisa. The applicant will be here tomorrow for the public hearing. I also want to clarify, at this time, he is only seeking beer and wine. In our system, it's a beer, wine, and liquor, but he is only seeking beer and wine. This is in that Food Depot Shopping Center at the intersection of US 78 and State Route 6. And so it is a new restaurant. It's a new alcohol license. He's not assuming one that was already existing, but it is just beer and wine only at this time. Any other questions?
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Kenner Jones.
So if he's only asking for beer and wine, but is it written in a way that all three would be approved anyway, and then it would just be up to him which things to sell?
So we could do it either way. If you want to approve beer, wine, and liquor, I don't think he's actually paid for his liquor excise. So right now, I'll have to double check with my clerk. I think he's only paid for the beer and wine. To do the liquor on-premise consumption, he would have to come back. I can double check and have that answer for you tomorrow if you wanted to go ahead and do everything. I don't know that it is his plan long-term to do liquor. What he's told us is really only beer, wine right now.
Vice
is what
Chair
he's looking
Alvarez, if I could chime in once Allison is done. He would have had to apply to the state for
the
that as
liquor.
well. So we can't approve all three. It would just need to be what he has paid for and has gotten approval from the state. So that would just be the beer and wine.
Thank you.
Anything else? Commissioner Raxon?
Yes, thank you. So Allison, quick question. How long has the establishment been open?
I would have to double check. I don't know that he's open yet. This is a
Okay.
new applicant for a new restaurant. I
Okay.
did check to see, is he taking over a restaurant that was already there? And he is not. This is a new restaurant coming into this space. We currently have about 15 on-premise alcohol consumption licenses in unincorporated Douglas County. And then we have about 36 to 40 off-premise consumption. So that's like if you go and buy beer or wine in a gas station. We do not allow liquor stores in Douglas County.
Right. Right.
Want to underscore
you.
that again.
Okay.
So this would be on-premise consumption only.
Okay. Then my last question, to your knowledge, there has not been any, or has there been any public opposition to the petition?
We have not received any public opposition. That is why the hearing is required. The applicant has successfully gone through the RAS certification and every other step that he has to satisfy. The advertisement has run in the newspaper, and we do have signs posted on the property, so we have satisfied all of the notice requirements for the request. Staff is recommending that we approve his request.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vice Chairman, I turn the floor back to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Next agenda item.
Next, we have under grants, number 8, approval of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office to accept the Georgia Emergency Management Agency Formulytics Grant in the amount of $27,616 with no local match to help reduce gang violence in Douglas County, establish the budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. This was deferred from our October 1st commission meeting, and Ken Conner is here to present.
All right, so I know information was provided before. This is a software that the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and the Georgia Sheriff's Association had collaborated in payment to get it as an initiative to get it started. By law, there's certain crimes that we have to notify the victims before the inmate's released. We can plan to continue doing that physically, but this is like a fail-safe. It'll provide notification to the victims, and also it opens it up to the community so that any case they want to go in and kind of track the offender, it'll give them up-to-date information if the inmate's released, if the inmate's transferred to another facility or anything like that. So it benefits the community and gives them an insight. It also benefits the sheriff's office because we get numerous calls into our booking area, which is short-staffed, asking, has my brother been sent to Jackson, today, or, so it helps all around with us, and it's grant funded. Now, we don't know the specific reoccurring cost. This is for a year, and we can, by the terms, we can get out of it with a 60-day notice. So if we get it and don't like it, or the fund is not available, or we don't see that the fund is available, then we can stop it. They're in the works to try to continue paying for it. But if we're estimating $3,000 to $5,000 yearly reoccurring costs, but it's so fluid right now, it's really hard to tell because it's an interface with our central square system, and so it's really that initial setup is the main cost. But I'd anticipate probably being more closer to the 3,000 range if we had a reoccurring cost. So if we find out it's a benefit to the community and the community likes it, then that's something that y'all can consider to continue to fund.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Raxton.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Yes.
Are there any other communities that's currently utilizing this service here in Georgia that you're aware of?
Well, I don't know if they're actually already established. There probably are some, but that was the push from the Sheriff's Association and the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, is to try to make it statewide so it's kind of a norm. I don't know specifically of any agencies that's using it.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I was just thinking as far as trying to get that reoccurring cost, if someone was using it, then they could probably help us in identifying what the reoccurring cost was going forward.
Well, it's relatively new, so I don't know that there's actually they've went into a second year of contract anywhere.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I guess my last question is, in regards to measuring the benefits of the software, do you have some ideas of what you're going to be looking at as far as those data points? Just to say, yeah, we think it's working, or no, we think we're going to let it go after this year.
Well, I mean, we can look at the user sign up and see how many registered users have signed up to use it, but other than that, I don't know that there's really a way to track it to determine, because it's working independent of itself, sending communications by text or email. So unless we get feedback from the community, it's probably going to be rest on just the sheer point of how many people continue to register to receive it. And I'm sure if we needed to reach out to them, we could get some analytical data that would show, how many messages they've sent out and that sort of thing come that time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vice Chair, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Mitchell.
I really was trying to see Commissioner Jones there. Okay, well, just a couple. So explain to us, how does the system works? What it do? I mean, so I can understand kind of the process. I'm assuming it'll text me or you or anybody that somebody is either got a sign of some sort. I'm just trying to understand the functionality of the software?
Okay, so we've got a jail management software called Central Square.
Okay.
And that stores every inmate's data. And when we move somebody, if they go to the hospital, they're signed out. If they go, if they're moved to another facility or if they're released, then that information is generated in our system by our users. When that happens, it triggers and sends that information to the software company of Vines. And then depending on who's registered for that particular inmate, it'll then send them a notification that there's been some activity or transfer or
Got
move.
it.
Now, as far as the HIPAA and stuff, it don't say they went to the hospital. It just says they're out. They're not in our custody at that particular time, in a
Got it.
sense, in our system.
Okay.
So-
And one other question. So you don't know the potential reoccurring cost of $3,000 to $5,000, but whatever that number is that already kind of in your budget, in the sheriff's budget, or is it something that we need to kind of look at as a board? Excuse me. Or is it something that we need to look at as a board as to preparing for that particular cost?
So over the years, we've absorbed a lot of cost.
Okay.
And
Y'all gonna do it this time again? No, just kidding.
yeah, as we continue to absorb cost, it's getting to the point where new things are going to have to, and some of the old things are going to have to be addressed.
Okay.
Because our budget's getting as big as it is, it's getting pretty thin as far as what we use and the tools we use and
Right.
that sort of thing. So.
Right. Okay. So I guess I'll defer to my county manager to verify for now at least what should we expect or, with this particular reoccurring cost for now. And then I guess we'll have to kind of budget in the future because it sounds to me like that's going to be an ongoing
You are
cost.
correct. We're going to have to, we assume a recurring cost. This is going to be a recurring cost.
Right.
Every year. Now, you do have the ability to step away from it in the event that you don't want to use it any longer, Mike. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, with a 60-day notice.
Got it. Okay. So, but I guess we'll plan for that.
Agreed.
Because the budget, cycle is getting ready to get started, and I don't want to kind of all of a sudden come up with an unknown cost like $3,000 to $5,000 and go like, oh, now where are we going to get that from?
Correct.
I know we got some little hidden pieces of the puzzle of the budget that we could probably find that.
Did you say hidden?
Hey, okay. So with that being said, thank you. I think that's all I have on that particular, not literally hidden, but we got a couple of line items that we can kind of move and shift monies around to make something like this here work. Outside of that, that's all I've got, as long as we're accounting for it in the budget. So I guess we'll go from there, I guess.
Okay.
I
Any
yield
other
back.
questions or comments? No? Okay. We'll move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, we'll move to business items. Number 9, approval for Douglas County Sheriff's Office to add an interface between its jail management software, Central Square, and Vine in the amount of $5,739.19 for the initial setup cost and associated fees for the first year of service to be funded through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and the Georgia Sheriff's Association, with the subsequent years funded from the Sheriff's Office budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Chief Connor.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. That's the one we just spoke of. So going back to the initial one, which was the Formalytics and the Clearview AI, if we can change gears here, I guess I got them turned. So this is a grant that we received that's fully funded. It's Formalytics software, and then there's an additional Clearview AI. Now, Formalytics we've been using since 2016. This is it's a software program that several departments around the metro Atlanta use, which you input information related to known gang members. So when, we've got GCIC and NCIC, but, and if you enter somebody wanted, I think you can put that they're a known gang member for officer safety, but there's nothing in that actually, there's a database that stores this information, and that's what Formalytics does. Now, there was some talk several years ago that the state is trying to produce their own system, which we would input the data like we're putting into Formalytics. And I think the city may be kind of holding out for that. I don't know that they're using Formulytics. We used to use early on with Formulytics. We paid $5,000. The district attorney's office paid $5,000, and the city of Douglasville paid $5,000. And we shared the cost, and we started inputting this information. Now you're probably asking, where does this information come from? How do we know somebody's a gang member? Well, there's multiple sources. They're self-proclaimed. When they, during an investigation, if they claim they're part of this, then they're entered in the system. When they come into jail, on our jail paperwork, we ask them if they're in a gang. And for the jail setting, that's to make sure that we don't put rival gang members, in the same pod. Now, with that information, they'll be pulled out and they'll be talked to and asked about their involvement. And from that interview, then that information would be put in there. And what that does is it helps us because we've got software that kind of keeps all this information in one place, but also that we can connect with like Atlanta or Clayton County, whoever's using this information. We can't see their data, but it'll pop up, says Clayton County's got a file, and then we have to contact them, and then they'll release the information to us of what they have. And all this does is, there was a packet that was sent from one of my gang investigators to y'all. And so you have to, when you have a crime, you have to establish that it's related to the gang. So just because somebody's a gang member, we don't do anything, until they commit a crime and we're able to show that they committed a crime, they're in a gang, and this was gang related. And there's multiple subsections of the Georgia Criminal Code that explain what laws that are broken can be used as part of the gang charge. So there's a bunch of steps, and this is just a tool for the sheriff's office to store the information of the known people that we deal with. Now, in conjunction with that, Clearview AI is a facial recognition software. And what it does is, if we have a gang, or just say we've got a fight at the mall, we've had a couple of fights at the mall where gangs actually beat down people. Well, they take that video and they put it in this system, and it searches public databases. So it'll search Facebook and Instagram and all these other places, and it'll bring back possible matches. So, we don't act on possible matches. We have to go and we have to investigate and we have to interview them, and we have to do our legwork. It in itself does not constitute probable cause. So, looking at some of their statistics and the accuracy of this software, there was a 12 million photo sample, and it returned an accuracy rate of 99.85% by searching these databases. There was another one that they did Visa border photos and of 1.6 million, and it returned a 99.86% accuracy. So not only can we use this for investigating crimes, but if we have just say we have an elderly person that has dementia that has driven off, and somewhere around Atlanta or Tennessee or wherever, somebody puts in a Facebook group, hey, we've run across this lady, does anybody recognize her? When we search her and that picture shows up, it's likely going to hit on this and help us locate them. So there's many uses of this software, and I don't know how it could be used forwardly, but it's more of a reactive, because you've got to have the video or the photo to go off of. So that's kind of the spill on the Clearview AI.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Yes, Commissioner Kenner Jones.
I would assume that we could probably also use this software for like Amber Alerts or kidnapping cases to help identify children if they get entered in somewhere.
Right. Any photo or video that we can use to enter in the system, and it will search its public databases. It searches news articles. It searches if these places putting mug shots anywhere, and so it can help. It's not necessarily going to find them, but if the stars line up and somebody puts a picture out there, then it could locate them. Absolutely.
I will just say, I was the commissioner that had the concern about this particular agenda item, and so I want to say I appreciate the detail that you brought to this particular presentation. I wish the first time that it had been on the agenda that this would have been the information that we would have received, because that would have certainly alleviated my concerns, particularly with the information that you mentioned in terms of self-identification of being a gang member. It's not just that some deputy or some officer somewhere decided that this individual looks like they might be in a gang or whatever, that there's actually a metrics that you're using to establish or identify this person, and then the step further with what you are going to do with that information, not just for public consumption, but also for the safety of the inmates. And so I definitely appreciate that. And I just, for time and efficiency, I wish we would have had that information the first time around, but I do appreciate the robust information that you just gave us.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman, I yield back.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, all right, thank you. Next agenda item, please.
Thank you. Number 10 is approval to change the name on a car allowance agreement, adding Kimberly Andrews in the amount of $4,800 annually effective October 4th, 2024, with no impact to the budget, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. I don't see Laura Thompson here, so we'll skip to the next one.
Yes.
And we'll try to continue. Number 11 is approval to accept the professional services proposal by Prime Engineering Incorporation pursuant to RFP 23-019 for Punkintown Park design in the amount of $29,795 to be funded by ARPA funds, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Greg Mooneyham.
Good morning. As requested, we were looking for approval to begin and accept the I'm going to just read it here, for the design trail, for the trail design of Punkintown Park.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? No? No? Okay, next agenda item, please.
Yes, number 12 is approval to purchase a new Spartan fire truck for Fire Station Number 9 in the amount of $730,000 from Peach State Truck Centers to be funded through the 2022 SPLOST Fund, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Chief Allen.
Good morning, Vice Chair, Commissioners, County Administration. Yes, we're looking for approval to purchase a fire engine for Fire Station Number 9. This is a Spartan vehicle. It's a 750 GPM fire truck with about 1,250 gallons of water, give or take. The cost of this vehicle would include an EMS compartment, all graphics, hard suction hose, booster hose, and nozzles.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? I do. Chief, just what's the lead time on this vehicle?
But this particular vehicle is a demo, so we'll be able to get this one within the next few months if approved.
Okay, all right. Other questions? Next item, please.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Number 13.
Thank you.
Approval of a BISERV participation agreement in the amount of $650 to be funded by department's 501c3, and a monthly cost of $30 to be funded by the state court DUI drug budget in order to purchase a POS card reader for the state court DUI court program, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Joshua Best.
Good morning, esteemed members of the board. Good morning, Vice Chair. Yeah, like she said, we're just seeking to purchase a POS system so that we can start taking electronic payments, card reader. It's the Flex 3 system that will allow us to take it from our office to the court's house to graduation. So it's a portable system. Our 501c3 has already agreed that they will pay the $650 for the POS system. It just will allow us to be another avenue to accept fee payments, and will be greatly beneficial to us in that regards, because right now all we can take is money orders and cash. So as you know, adding a credit card system credit and debit card system will allow us a lot more people to be able to pay their fees, because we all know the inconvenience of getting to the ATM and getting a money order. So we're just trying to make it a little easier for our participants to actually pay their fees. So.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions?
I just have a comment.
Yes, Commissioner Raxton.
Good morning. Thank you for
morning.
bringing this. So I think this is definitely a great in regards to when we talk about technology. This is going to make us technology more savvy, and we can accept more forms of payment. Is that kind of the end goal?
Yes.
Okay. And it'll be just one device. Is that correct? Or how many devices?
Right now, we're just looking at the one.
Just the one device.
Yeah, because of it being portable. Obviously, majority of the time it'll be at the office. But when we do have court sessions here at the courthouse, we can just bring it with us. When we have graduations, we can take it to graduations. Anytime we have a community event where we know we're going to have a lot of participants there, we can just take it there, and it'll still allow them to be able to just swipe their card or, whatever, so they can make their payments.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Vice Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Yes, Commissioner Mitchell.
Just one. Is there a fee associated with?
It is a $30 a month fee.
Right.
But we can cover that. We have that in our budget.
So $30 a monthly fee, I guess it is that you.
It's just a technology fee because it is a wireless system. It does use like a cellular data. So they do charge a monthly fee for that. And we also have applied for an enhancement grant through the CACJ, CJCC, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, to help with the cost of that. We haven't heard back yet. We're pending that, but I have put that in the grant application for that particular system too.
To offset the $30 cost, or to offset any other cost?
To offset the $30 cost. The $650 cost has already been taken care of by our 501c3.
But the $30 cost that you just spoke of will be covered within the budget?
Yes, it's covered in the budget.
So you can cover that, so I'm assuming we're good on that end. Okay. Okay, thank you. I yield back. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, Madam Clerk, next line item.
Okay. Number 14 is approval of Animal Control Advisory Board bylaws. I have Attorney Wiggins.
That's fine. Good morning again. If you recall a couple of months ago, we discussed having the Animal Control Advisory Board amend their bylaws. It was a matter that had come up that kind of determined that other areas of the bylaws needed to be amended. They have done that. It was amended on August 28th, and a part of the bylaws require this board to approve what they did to the bylaws. And so I have the specific articles that were amended based on our conversations and the draft that I provided to them. I'm happy to go over. I think the chair, I've never met her before, but Chair Manny, I don't know if she's here. Perfect. She certainly can come up and go through those. So it's the will of the board.
Okay. Yeah, please come on up, please.
Good morning. Nice meeting you.
Yes. We've been communicating through email and phone, not in person. I'm Tamara Manny, the chair of Animal Advisory. This is so not comfortable. We made the amendments that we discussed to improve our bylaws so that we, as a board, we know what we need to do and steps we need to do to make any changes. The situation was just a conflict within a board member, but we figured it out and did the procedure that we needed to. And we also added that section into our bylaws of removal of a board member, the steps that we would need to take.
Okay.
I've read the changes. Most of them were, from the suggestions I've made. They made some edits to my suggestions, and we've concluded that they are in great working condition, and so we would ask for this board to approve those tomorrow.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Raxton?
Yes, if I could just get the exact sections that were amended, that would be great.
2.1, 3.1, 3.7,
2.1, 3.1, 3.7.
5.5, 6.1.
6.1 was the big one.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll review those. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all
Any
we
other-
have.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay,
We're
next
good?
agenda item, please.
Okay, number 15 is authorization to amend the ACCG defined benefit plan to provide a 5% cost of living adjustment for retirees and beneficiaries effective August 1st, 2024, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Danielle Nichols.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners, and Administration. On August 27th, the board approved for the first time a 5% cost of living adjustment for retirees and their beneficiaries. However, what was not included in that particular agenda item was approval to amend the defined benefit plan and all correlating documents. So this item is before you for that additional approval.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments? No? Okay, next agenda item, please.
Thank you. Number 16 is approval of FEMA Community Rating System, CRS, annual recertification documents, and authorize the chairman to sign all related documents pending final legal review. Travis McDonald.
Good morning, Commissioners. So Douglas County participates in FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program, and that makes homeowners eligible to get flood insurance through FEMA. As part of that program is a community rating system, and that each community is given a rating based off of how well they manage their floodplains and how well they distribute information about floodplains to their citizens. So part of the CRS, the community rating system, is to do an annual report. It's basically just an update on so that we can get recertified every year that we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing to get our rating. Our current rating gives homeowners about a 15% break on their flood insurance. And so to maintain that rating, we have to do this annual report. The chair has to sign off on that report, and that's what we're asking for permission for the chair to be able to do.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments? No? Okay. All right, we'll move on to expenses.
Okay, if you don't mind, could I go back to the
Oh, yes.
The car allowance?
Yes.
Number 10. Laura Thompson had an emergency and couldn't be here this morning, but she did want me to mention it is replacing someone who left, Laura Luckert, and so it's nothing new coming out of their budget. It's just replacing someone.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Braxton.
Yeah, so just for clarification, so we're just simply switching the name out? 'Cause I think what's confusing me is the $4,800 that's identified here.
Correct. We're just switching the name.
Okay, so it's just simply a name change, but a
Yes.
no, okay, thank you.
Okay.
I
Anyone
yield the
else?
floor back to you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay. All right, to the next item, please.
Next, we have approval of expenses, which will be approved tomorrow. This is for Commissioner Martin Raxton's reimbursement expenses for the month of September in the amount of $16.60.
Okay.
Next, we have discussion items. Number 18, proposed annexation and rezoning by the City of Douglasville for 79.40 acres on Doris Road for the purpose of building a 41-unit single-family detached residential community. Allison Duncan.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. What you have in front of you is a revised annexation request. You may recall in July, my colleague Phil Schaefer was up here bringing an annexation request for this same tract. It's about 79 acres, except it was for a project of much higher density. So what you see actually now on the slides in front of you, this was the request July 8th and 9th that was presented. At that time, the Board of Commissioners did vote to raise an objection. As a result, this request never went through to the city. It was withdrawn by the applicant prior to the City of Douglasville acting on any type of request. So what they have brought you back is basically still a request for annexation, but they are showing a much lower density. This is something that is about 40 lots. It's commensurate with what could come in under the base zoning today. Now that being said, I'm going to forward here. So the parcel outlined in blue, that is the parcel under consideration. You see just to the east on Doris Road, there's about 10 acres that's shaded in a yellow color. So that's the city limits boundary. And if I back out a little bit further, you see that same parcel outlined in blue, and you see kind of the larger city limits boundary further east, right? So as Phil Schaefer had mentioned to you back in July, and I will reiterate again today, in 2005 and 2006, that little 10-acre tract was the subject of a rezoning objection by the Board of Commissioners at the time. The city essentially annexed through the public school property to take in that 10 acres, and the concern was expressed 2005, 2006, that it would lead to further, kind of domino effect of taking additional properties. I bring that up because I think it is germane to the discussion today. I would also encourage the county attorney to tag team with me on this, but I don't think that we see that we have a strong objection based on statute. What they are proposing for you here today is essentially commensurate with what they could do in the county. I have asked the applicant to clarify why they don't just want to develop under its base zoning in the county, and they have provided me no response for that. So because we have some timelines, as you're familiar with, under state law to raise any objection if it's the will of the board to do so, that is why this is on the agenda before you today. Again, we do not feel that we have any objection to raise based on statute, but we did want to bring this before you today so that you can be aware of the request and provide any additional direction that you would see is appropriate. I don't know if the county attorney has anything to add at this time, but staff is not recommending that we raise an objection. However, we did want you to be aware that the concern was originally expressed back in 2005, 2006, when this was brought previously about the continuing domino effect of just taking pieces of land that are further removed from the city center of Douglasville. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Vice Chair, I would concur with staff. We did look at this, and when we got the new application, the revised application, the density is much lower than what we saw initially, which would take away our objection based on the code section that we talked about when there is increased density and that the annexed property would border the county. That wouldn't be commensurate with what it would have been in the county. So I concur with staff that I would recommend that we do not object unnecessarily to an annexation.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Kenner-Jones?
Yes. Will they be here at tomorrow's?
I can request that. There is not a requirement that they are here. It is not a public hearing. We bring this to you for discussion today. If there is the desire of the board to put this on the agenda for tomorrow, usually we'd only do that if we get indication that you plan to raise an objection, at which point we would ask for a formal vote from the Board of Commissioners. I don't know if county attorney has an opinion. If the board does not choose to raise an objection, we typically in the past would not have put it on the agenda for the regular meeting. But if you would like this to be moved to the agenda for the regular meeting for further discussion, I can certainly request that the applicant's representative be here, though I don't think I can require that they be
The
here.
other thing is to note is this is 100% annexation. And 100% annexations, they are done so with much liberty and much deferment to the annexing authority. Mm-hmm. And so there is not a basis for, we already recognize it's not a basis for objection for any rezoning, because that's not necessary here. But then there's not a basis for an objection or even consideration by this board because it's 100%. Mm-hmm. And so I understood from staff that this is a common practice to have the board hear about it, consider it if there is a basis for an objection. Because there isn't, I would recommend that it follows the necessary process for 100% annexation, which then would not require any board action.
Any other comments, commissioners? No? Allison, so if I'm looking at that right, the city properties to the north and to the south, basically this is just clean up that line, correct, going straight down? Am I seeing that right? The yellow properties outline the parcels on the north and south of that? So just basically bring it straight down?
So the city properties are to the east, and anybody here with a better sense of direction can help me out with this. But the city property, I don't think, can you see my cursor on the screen? So where my cursor is, that's the city property. Okay. What the city did back in 2005, 2006, if I kind of move down just a bit, where you see that little red building on there, that's the school property, right? So if you see the school property here and the ball fields, the city basically annexed through public property, just like this, up here and took in this piece.
Okay.
Now what they're proposing is to annex across the road, because for purposes of annexation, road right-of-ways, utility easements, things like that don't really create obstacles, and they're proposing to take in the parcel that's highlighted in blue.
Okay.
So it's the small 10 acres immediately adjacent. Whether or not it's contiguous, right, that's kind of the tricky issue we've always had with public property, right? So the textbook example that we have here in Douglas County is as the city has annexed out I-20 and then jumped through Sweetwater Creek State Park to take in tributary, right? So that's always kind of the question that we have about, you know, how far is too far for those boundaries, but that's essentially the conversation that we're having here.
Okay.
Based on some of the previous feedback that we've gotten, you may recall the Malone Road annexation that we brought to you previously. We did raise an objection to that. DCA could not assemble an arbitration panel, so they have said your only recourse would be through some sort of judicial action with the city. So again, we're kind of in a similar situation here. As the county attorney has said, we do not believe that we have an objection based on statute to ask the state to convene an arbitration panel or to raise an objection under those grounds. So if there was any objection to go forward from the board, it would have to be something that works through the courts, at which point I would totally defer to legal to advise you as to whether that's a good idea.
I am thankful, though, that they did move from high density to, I would say, a more acceptable plan.
Correct.
I
And
appreciate
under
that.
state statute, if they were to just kind of bring you a modest proposal, is what they're doing here, that's largely compatible, and then try to upzone it, you know, or zone it to a higher density. If they do that within 12 months of the annexation going forward, they have to provide us notice. Now, I don't know that we have any additional recourse to do anything at that time. The property would solidly be within the jurisdiction of the city of Douglasville, and they would have home rule to make zoning decisions. But that is one concern that we did consider. You know, are they just trying to take this into the city through annexation and then down the road upzone it to a higher density? So the only real recourse we would have with that within the first 12 months, they would notify us. We could, I think, propose some sort of objection at that time. But again, zoning, as you know, is a home rule power. So.
Okay. All right. Anything else, commissioners? Okay. Yes, Commissioner Mitchell.
So if I heard you, thank you, Vice Chair. So if I heard you correctly, so if by chance they did go and this annexation went through and they decided down the road just to get the annexation and then upzone it to a higher density, our recourse is basically nothing, basically, other than we disagree with whatever that may or may not be in the upzoning. Is there any way that we can tie everybody down to make sure that this is what we're going to get?
I would
Legal.
defer to county attorney to help me out with this, but again, I think that what we have consistently been told by the state is that your remedy is through judicial action if you feel that another jurisdiction is not handling things appropriately. Is that a fair?
It is a fair assessment. So once it's in the city, if it's annexed, it goes through without any interference, then the city then holds the rights to zone it however they see fit. I do believe the law says that they have to wait a year after annexation to do the zoning and a rezoning to a higher density or anything else. And so that would be the only requirement for them, is to wait out the time to rezone it, to then develop some project that had a higher density. The contiguous piece is a statutory requirement. It has to be contiguous, at least 1/8 of the perimeter has to be contiguous to the county. And so you certainly do lift up any governmentally owned property and then slide it to the city, to the county, to ensure that contiguous test is met. But other than that, that would be only our only basis for any objection or judicial action. And I take out the word objection, any judicial action to ensure that this annexation is proper.
So basically, there's nothing on the county side that we could actually do if we okay this particular annexation.
Not in 100%, no, sir.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I yield back. Thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Okay. Next item, please.
Okay. Number 19 is findings of the 90-day moratorium and determination of expiration or extension. Allison Duncan.
Okay. All right. Here we go again. You may recall that when we were before you previously having the conversation of a moratorium, this was also in July, The staff had asked for a 90-day extension because we saw that we were increasingly bringing you projects that were getting denied repeatedly. At that time, when we put the moratorium in place, you had said, please return a report prior to the expiration of the 90-day moratorium period. So we have prepared a report on our findings. I have about 10 slides I'm going to share with you here today to just kind of go over that briefly, but as always, I would love to talk further if there are any questions that y'all may have in this meeting or offline. So specifically, when we determined our methodology, how we were going to move forward, we evaluated all the discussion and decisions of the Planning and Zoning and Board of Commissioners meetings in September 2023. So we look back about a year to kind of see how y'all were making decisions. As you all well know, when somebody says, hey, do you think this is going to get rezoned? I never tell them what I think the outcome of the Board of Commissioners meeting will be, but we do say, when we look at the decisions that have been made prior, this is the pattern that we tend to see. Additionally, we reviewed all of the community feedback. You may recall that we worked over 12 months on our 2023 comprehensive plan update, and we looked at the strategic plan priorities because that was another real robust opportunity for community engagement. We were also, at the same time, working on the Highway 92 LCI and model mile projects. So we were in constant engagement with the citizens at that time, particularly in regard to the Highway 92 LCI. It was during that process that we had a robust conversation about higher density development, because that's where, in the county at least, we have seen a lot of the apartments and townhomes and higher density development coming out of the ground. And then finally, we coordinate with multiple departments and partners, including the Sheriff's Office, the Fire Department, E911, and the Board of Education. Because the other thing that we feel like we heard you telling us quite clearly is, what is the impact on our ability to deliver services, particularly in regard to public safety, as well as the impact on the schools. So those were kind of the two things that we landed on as what we'll call findings. The first is, what is that development impact to public safety and public schools? And then the second is the economic and community development priorities coming out of some of our long-range planning efforts. So here's a couple of recommendations that I'm going to just kind of jump through quickly. Y'all can tell me if we're moving in the right direction or not. But coming out of this 90-day moratorium, where we think we can improve, first of all, is on interdepartmental coordination. So we already meet quarterly with the Board of Education, and you do know that we have a Board of Education staff person that is on the Planning and Zoning Board. But we can continue those coordination meetings, and then we can also initiate regular coordination meetings with our public safety personnel. We had some really good conversations coming out of this moratorium, and so we think that it makes sense to continue that on at regular intervals. We also have received a willingness from all of our partners in the various public safety departments to revise the impact statements that you receive as a part of every application. So I don't have that done today, but if that would be helpful, that could be a takeaway from this moratorium, that we really kind of work to focus on getting you the answers to the questions that I think you're asking. And so there was generally consensus that we could certainly do that. We also have our monitored business ordinance. You may recall that was the video camera surveillance ordinance that we put in the code about 18 to 24 months ago. So there are some text amendments that we would propose to that to make that a little bit more efficient as we start to see the data coming out of where these monitored businesses are, or basically the areas of the county where we have the Part 1 crimes being committed on non-residential property. And so we are prepared to present that to you. We also feel like we could do a better job with blighted and nuisance property abatement. Right now we're specifically talking about vacant properties, right? And so we do have some powers under our code of ordinances that we could take blighted or nuisance properties, clean them up, put a lien on the property, and hopefully bring them back into kind of a better public use. Now that being said, it will take political will to get in that direction. I certainly understand that taking private property and requiring structures to be demolished is not a popular thing. But that was definitely something that has come out of our discussion of where we see crime happening and where we see nuisance properties kind of dragging down larger areas that are stable parts of our community. And then finally, we have received some feedback about impact fees, and we did put a proposal in our 2025 budget request for the Planning and Zoning Department. If this is something the Board of Commissioners would like to take a look at, to start finding those areas where we can charge developmental impact fees to offset some of the cost of services for things like parks, recreation, and public safety. So I'm going to pause there, see if you have any specific questions about any of those items or moving in the right direction.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
All right.
No, go ahead.
I will keep going as we transition to economic and community development priorities. This is kind of hearkening back to what we did with the strategic plan, the comprehensive plan, and what we were also hearing through our model mile discussions, as well as the Highway 92 LCI. We feel like some revised community design standards is something that the county could be ready for. In the past, we've had a very light approach to design regulation through things like the Highway 92 corridor overlay, the quality growth overlay. I can show you a few examples of what that looks like. So receiving some impact from the Board of Education, particularly about increasing kind of the design quality of communities. We would propose that we think that this is a time that we could beef up some of our revised community design standards for new development. There's also the opportunity to evaluate our current land use planning patterns in Douglas County to look at where growth is happening, where it's not happening. Based on the feedback of the citizens, why are we only getting big projects? You know, what are the ways that we can start to get some of the things that the citizens consistently say they'd like to see? So we think that there's an opportunity to work with the Atlanta Regional Commission on a small planning study to address that. And then finally, the ongoing process of text amendments. I think we already were working on provisions related to things like conservation subdivisions, planned residential districts, in the inventory of allowable uses that were really already in process, I think, moving in this direction. So we would propose those as some of our priorities. This just gives you a flavor of when I talk about economic and community design standards, particularly for residential properties. This gives you a sense of where we already have been doing that and how we could just kind of beef this up a little bit to take it to the next level, particularly paying attention to kind of where we want to hit with that average housing value in communities, because I think that does impact, you know, the ability to generate revenue for everything from the Board of Education and a number of our public safety services. We've also done this a little bit, like I said, for commercial and industrial. So here's some examples of what that has looked like. And then also some hardscape and landscape standards. So we're not trying to propose something that's particularly radical or we haven't done previously. We're trying to say, let's start from our foundation and maybe build a little bit stronger where we can find those improvements. And then the last three things that I'll hit on, again, these are all in the comprehensive plan. Before I forget to tell you, the item that the gentleman spoke of this morning during the public comment is actually in the work program to do in 2026 and 2027, but it does kind of dovetail very nicely with what we had already talked about. So specifically looking at those opportunities for what I'd call small economic development, or areas where we can deliver on, you know, grocery stores and things to do and more recreation opportunities that we have identified in both the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan. In 2025, our comprehensive plan says we want to really start getting into arts, culture, and creative placemaking opportunities and defining that and finding where it makes sense for the county to start undertaking those initiatives in a more robust way. And then, as you all know, we've been working on the countywide multi-use trail network through the Model Mile. Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you're probably tired of hearing me talk, I just throw up a few pictures now to give you a sense of where we think that we could be going with this. And then finally, a timeline. So this gets into the question that we are going to put before you today about whether you are content to allow the moratorium to expire or you think that we need to extend it and do a little bit more work. So in regard to the timeline, between now and the end of the year, you can see that we already have various text amendments that are scheduled to start coming before you on October 29th. So these are things that were largely in process, but we've been able to modify them as needed to potentially cover what we felt were coming out of the moratorium. We can also get those revised departmental impact statements moving pretty quickly, and we can start working on the revised community design standards. But these are not things that I'm going to have done by October 23rd, right? So the question of whether or not you extend the moratorium, I think, really comes down to how much of this do you want to have in place when the moratorium expires, or would you like to have a little bit more time to see exactly what those text amendments look like, to see exactly what those revised community design standards will look like? If that's the case, then we're going to recommend that you extend that, again, just another 90 days to get us through that first planning and zoning meeting in January of 2025. So if you want to extend it from October 23rd to January 23rd, 2025, we feel like that would give us a substantial amount of time to get through those items that we have wrapping up 2024 and then going into 25. As I said, we also have the proposal for the impact fees in the 2025 budget. It has an asterisk next to it, which means that there will be an impact to budget if that's something that you want to see approved. Also with the Model Mile and countywide trail network planning, we hope that that becomes a continuous and ongoing process for Douglas County. And then you can kind of see the other things, how we have scheduled those out through 2025 to make sure that we're addressing them. So with that being said, this last slide just kind of recaptures those two options. Do you want to let the moratorium expire, knowing that the staff will continue to work in good faith on the things that we have identified in the timeline? Or if you would like to extend it for another 90 days so that you can actually see certain things in compliance, so we can do those text amendments and so we can have all that in front of you so you can evaluate that before the moratorium lifts. And staff will follow your direction on which way you want to move with that. So I'm going to stop there. Any other questions or comments?
Commissioners, any comments, questions?
I guess I'll
Sure.
just ask.
Commissioner Mitchell.
The question is kind of what direction this board wants to go. I mean, impressive. I mean, I think we definitely might need the time to assure what we want versus letting staff go through it. But I'm leaning more toward extending it, but I can't speak for the rest of my colleagues. But it makes sense to extend it to make sure you got it right versus allowing you guys to work through it, and then when the pipeline it opens. And so,
It's open.
So, but that's all I'll say. It depends upon this board how we decide to go at it. So, I yield back.
Yeah. I believe I concur with Commissioner Mitchell. If we're going to do it, I'd like for us to do it right. And
Okay.
so,
So we will have the extension on the meeting for tomorrow for y'all to formally vote on the extension.
okay.
All right.
All right. Any other
That's
questions or
everything.
comments? Nothing? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that is everything, I believe. Is there any commissioner comments? Yes, Commissioner Braxton.
Hi, thank you. So again, I hate that I missed the opportunity to participate in the employee appreciation event. Again, I hope everyone really enjoyed it, and thank you for everything that our employees are doing. It is greatly appreciated, and from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you for what you're doing and the services you're providing back to our residents. Mr. Vice Chair, I yield the floor back to you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, all of us, I'm sure some of you know, we were on a commissioner conference up in Athens, so we hated that we missed the event. But we have, as we was all talking about, we have the best staff. A bunch of are greatly appreciated. And but that being said, Attorney Wiggins, is there a need to go into executive session?
There is. And it's for personnel, legal, and real estate.
Okay. Commissioners, may I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? By raising your right hand. Okay. That's, all right. That's, all right. So we will now adjourn to executive session. After executive session, we will adjourn our meeting.